It's a Velo29 podcast. I'm the man on the mic.
And I'm the guy on the bike.
Hello, welcome.
Hello, Joe. That was the long way around, wasn't it? We used to. It's been so long.
It's been ages, mate, isn't it?
Rusty. The rusty bicycle.
It is. I was just about to say that, actually. We're saddling up, but forgotten how to ride the bike, because that's how I feel, mate. It's been ages, isn't it?
I can't. Yeah, I'll check when the last one was, but I'm going to say something like
September.
Rather even before then, July maybe, something like that.
Oh, blimey!
Just yeah.
Well,
we just let it slip, didn't we?
We did a little bit. Yeah, we've got busy with life. Life seems to take over these things, doesn't it, mate?
It does.
Anyway, how are things?
Good. Yeah, it's that wonderful time of year when we don't have any events, but everybody's got all that enthusiasm for the coming season and new events, which we'll talk about. And next year is going to be better. I'm going to be faster. I'm going to be leaner. I'm going to ride further and all of those things. So we enjoy the enthusiasm around that.
I'm glad you feel like that, because at my age, I don't. I go, next year I'm going to survive and I'm going to continue surviving. I know there's people my age that have got a better mindset.
But realism is an important thing, isn't it?
So what's been happening?
Well, we've when was our last event? Something like the 10th of October. The Great Yorkshire Sport Eve, which seems like 5 minutes ago, but it's what, 7 weeks now, 6 weeks, 7 weeks, something like that. So the break off is nice, and when the previous breaks we had were not nice because we didn't know when we were coming back and all that kind of thing. So this is nice to feel like we can have a rest. It's like a normal this time of year where, and it's like the good ideas for the future surface and all of that kind of thing, like the different events and that sort of thing. So been enjoying that. Been getting to ride. I bought a new bike.
Oh, did you? Oh, hello, everybody. Go on, here we go. What have you got now?
Well, it's not. It was. It was a bit
new,
of a
new or new to you?
New to me. I don't know. Some of the listeners will know Dave Lloyd. He's the best British pro that never was. He's 72 now. He's a classic roadman. He lives over in the Wirral. He does something like 35,000 miles a year. It's just bonkers. And he's still doing that. He's broke his arm at the minute, so he's not. But
that's what happens when you do things at 72. Just putting it out there.
Yeah. He was out in the dark and he rode into a road sign that he couldn't see and fell off. Yeah. Taking him some time. So
this is why I stay on my sofa, everybody. Just putting that out there.
Yeah, well, there might be some wisdom behind that. So he's selling one of his old. He had a bike he hadn't really used. So he decided to sell it and cheer himself up with some new wheels for the bike he does use. So I bought that off him, and bless him, he's a good old lad. But it's got a brand new cassette on it, and bag of the century, blah blah blah, and I put the cassette in the bin because it was knackered. The chain was worn more than I've ever seen a chain before. I couldn't get the seat to stay still. Yeah, the handlebars. Really? He rides a very aero position for an old boy, so the handlebars were practically touching the ground. So it took me about a week of faffing about to make it suitable for human use.
Wow. Okay.
No hard feelings.
Was it a bargain? Not really. No. Okay. All
but
right.
now it's sweet. I've got his side, so At
least no one else is going to hear this. Yeah. So just I just thought we'd do a kind of look back before we go any further. I mean, how do you look at this year, having kind of come out of the pandemic a little bit? I guess I know we're not quite there yet, but how do you see this year from an event perspective? Have you made progress? Have you made the progress you wanted to make? Is it looking the way you should? What do you think?
I think it was sort of a recovery year, really. Yeah. We still owed a lot of people a ride, and so it was important that we don't carry that into next year, because that screws the books up no end. So we wanted to work hard and get that out of the way. We wanted to do as many events as we could, and we wanted to still have an element of our new stuff as well. So that it was middle of April through to end of June, early July was just mental. Looking back, it's just a blur where we
You
had
literally did something every weekend, didn't you?
1 weekend off in 14.
Yeah.
And we've never done that before. And even during it, I sort of had to stop and look back at previous years, 2019 and 18, which were our biggest years, really. And we did York and the Cheshire Cat in March, and then we had one event in April, or Manchester in April, and then we had the Tour of the Peak in May, the Beast, and it was nothing like what this year was. But like, it wasn't obvious until I sort of stopped and thought about it. But I think it's sort of crafted the way of the next few years will go, because that March, April, May, June, like we've made June used to be nothing for us, and we didn't even have an event in June. Or we maybe had the butter tubs or Whitby, which nobody did. But now next year in June, we've got Flat Out in the Fens, Lincoln 262, and the Yorkshire Beast. So 3 of our biggest events are in the month of June. So that it's like the season's continued. Then May's with having 3 days in Yorkshire, May's rammed full. April is now full, apart from Easter, and then March is absolutely full. So whilst it's not as bonkers as this year, it's changed, I think, the way the next few years will go.
It's funny, isn't it? Because we talked about this all the way through the lockdown, how, however difficult it's been, it has changed the way you do stuff, and it's changed the way events not only are run, but are actually happening. It's changed the calendar. I mean, I've got London Marathon every year now in October, and that may change. They are looking at going back, but certainly not next year. And it's absolutely changed the whole event calendar, hasn't it?
It has, yeah. I think, some of it's like it's more. We used to slot a few events into the summer, and they were like struggling really because of the school holidays and other commitments. And then last year we had 8 weeks off in the summer, and next year it's 9, and it's lovely. It's I don't sit around and twiddle my thumbs. I have my other projects and stuff that I work on, but it's great to have that block of time off, and I think that makes sense, and the riders will get used to that as well. And then September into October is mega busy, whereas we used to do one event in September. We used to do the White Horse. We used to have Stockton in July, Whitby in August, the White Horse at the end of September, and it just seemed like, why did we ever do that? It doesn't make any sense.
And sometimes it's useful to do that, isn't it? We were forced to evaluate, but actually that evaluation, and we've talked about the way in which you do events as well. That's helped, like you say, to streamline things. I mean, I did my last outdoor event 10 days ago, which would never ever have happened in the past, and yet people are going, do you know what? We might stick with this.
We were fortunate with a very mild October and November, weren't we? Early November.
The weather has affected things, definitely. So that's not good in the climate change perspective. But yeah.
No, it could be if we'd had a brutal October like we sometimes do. We would have gone, well, let's get back to the old days of one event and wind everything up. So it's been a good year. It's been a good year, and I'm looking forward to next.
And I think that certainly, from my perspective, it's been like you said, a catch up. But has it been worth the effort? That's the big question that everybody's asking, because I know a lot of companies are still struggling. A lot of companies are going under. A lot of events companies are questioning whether they can continue. Not everybody has recovered.
Yeah. Well, the proof of the pudding will be next year, really.
Okay.
If next year is like 2019 was, then yeah, it's been worth it. If we start to see a nosedive, then now the efforts of 2020, 2021, we might be saying, we should have called it a day in March 2020, but we'll find out next.
It's not likely, though, is it? I mean, people are supporting, people are getting involved, aren't they?
October entries were the highest ever. So October entries people start entering for next year in October, and it was the highest ever.
That's good.
That continued in November. It's tailed off a little bit, but I
That's
think
because of Christmas, mate, and Black Friday. Everybody's spending money on everything else.
Exactly that. Yeah. I think people get, and then usually that early November, it sort of, so early December, it trickles along, dips off a bit, but then around Christmas, it's usually good as well when people get paid before Christmas and they sat around having the turkey and they think, right, what do I do next year? And they enter our events.
Now, I know the next podcast we're going to talk about these brand new events, but before then, let's talk about what's coming back. So what's happening when for next year? Let's kind of talk about those regulars and those,
Well, we'll do our winter series at Croft. That's a big, a lot of people know us for the sportives, but that winter series is a big part of Velo29. That reaches thousands and thousands of people, completely separate people to the sportive people. And so we're definitely doing that. 4 dates in January and February. We're only doing one. Well, I'm tired. I think we're only going to do one sprint sportive, which will be 5th of February from Croft. So and that they were sort of varying popularity in 2020 when we did them. So I think we'll do one and test
the one and see where it goes.
And then we kick off in style at York early March, first event, and then Lancaster, and then the Cheshire Cat, and then it sort of follows the normal kind of pattern. Really, we've got
the Cheshire Cat back in March because that had changed, didn't it?
That is an important. I think that it was good doing it in September, but it wasn't the numbers that we get in March.
Right. Okay.
And so I think what it led me to think was the space for a new Cheshire event in September, because we got 600 people at the Cat and it was really great. So we'll move the Cat back to March and we'll do that other event in September as well.
Cool.
Looks like the Klondike's gone, sadly.
Right.
I'm trying to find a private sponsor. If anyone has 40 grand that's kicking about and wants to spend it very wisely, then
just hang on, I'm just checking my pockets.
You've only got 35.
40p, mate. 40p.
So if anyone's got some money to spend on a great cause, but otherwise,
there might be an organisation or a company out there that wants to get involved and sponsors. So yes, everybody, if you want to be part of one of the
10 million people watch the Klondike. 10 million. Yeah, that's great value for investment. Stockton's back though. They're very keen to do the Stockton event.
That'll be the whole festival, will it? Will that the whole?
No longer the Friday night crit, but the sportive on the Saturday, the festival on the Sunday with the men and ladies Grand Prix. They explored doing the nationals, but didn't really fit this year. So going to just be the Grand Prix, which is great.
And that's July, isn't it? Normally,
first weekend in July. Yeah. I think that'll be our only big race next year. I don't see any new ones coming along. I think the old racing calendar, it seems a bit of a. I think that's something that struggled.
I agree.
Yeah. What'll happen with that next year, I don't know. The calendar should be announced real soon. But the events that are on it, I think. It's always chicken and egg. We've talked about it before, haven't we? Like, you've got to put the event in the calendar so that it's happening, so that then you can find a sponsor. Nobody wants to give you a big investment on an event that might not happen. But then the poor old organizer, as well as organising an event, he has to find the money to make it happen as well. So it's.
I mean, is this a result of the pandemic as well? Are companies just less, sure about investing because they're just trying to survive? Is that something? Or
I think that. The national series, as it was sort of coming to the end of its is coming to the end of its life, and relying upon an aging group of organisers who do it for goodwill and have a quite unhealthy relationship with British cycling in places. Not critical of either side, but it doesn't always work. Isn't a model that is really correct for a national series. And so I think British Cycling would allow it, where they've done things to keep that series going. I think they'll allow it to tail off to
In
make
order to do
space
you.
for when this is the new thing.
You've got to lose something before you can gain something, haven't you? And that is
Yeah,
sometimes the
well,
way
yeah,
you've got to
it's
let
a bit of
things
a
fizzle
lethargic
out.
way of letting it fizzle
It
out, isn't
is, it is, but some of these things seem to happen like that, don't they?
They do.
Okay. And you mentioned Yorkshire Beast.
The Beast will be bigger than ever. Yeah, I think we've sold 200 tickets for that already, which has never been the case by this time of year. Year one we had 450, year two we had 250, year three we had 225, which was last year and was weird. I think we'll have 300 plus this year, and we've got 16 people now who've done it 3 times or have succeeded 3 times. So that'll be, but we've got loads who've done it twice. So I think that triple club will become a lot bigger next year. And then I think we'll have a very select group in the quadruple club. Yeah, they'll have done all of the beasts. That's quite something.
Now I know we're keeping it short today, but I wanted to talk to you about 3 days in Yorkshire. Talk to me about it, because that was literally, and I'm not kidding, a highlight of my whole event calendar last year. I just thought it was superb.
Mine too. Yeah. We've upped the spaces to 200 because we've got indoor accommodations allowed now back at the centre in Thirsk.
So it's the same venue, yeah?
Same venue, very similar format. We're going to relocate the time trial because it was a nightmare building the start ramp and finish logistics on an open road, and then having that really tight window and tractors coming down and stuff like that. So we're going to relocate. Yeah. And then I got complaints afterwards about opening the gate and so relocate the time trial, but to a very similar flat 15-ish K out and back type route. Or it'd be better to do a square. But that's quite hard to find. And then we're probably going to change the hill climb as well. We'll probably move it to White Horse Bank, I think. There's a cafe halfway up Boltby Bank, and we just got so much grief beforehand, on the day, afterwards, just screaming lunatic behavior. So just when they see us come back, they'll think, all right, nobody took any notice of my screaming lunatic behavior last year. So this year, I'm going to park my 2 Range Rovers.
It's not worth it, is it? It's not worth it. So
you want to go somewhere you wanted, not somewhere that, because it's a nice event and people could enjoy it, rather than somewhere that you're not wanted. But other than that, it'll be another fantastic event.
Brilliant. Well, that gets us up to date, doesn't it? That gets us up to date. And I think we'll be back very soon, folks, with another podcast.
We'll do our best.
Preferably in the next few days or weeks. And we'll talk about the new stuff. Yeah?
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Brilliant. Cheers, everybody.
Cheers, Joe. Bye, everyone. Bye for now. Bye.